Wars Rebels Season 3 is finally here, and the Ghost Crew continues to do battle with the evil Empire. Unfortunately for them, they're going to meet a brand new obstacle in the form of the very popular Star Wars character, the evil Grand Admiral Thrawn. After a couple of hundred requests, I've decided that I'm going to review the third season of Star Wars Rebels, and honestly, I regret not even reviewing the first couple of seasons of the show. At first, I really didn't care for Star Wars Rebels all that much. The first season, personally, for me, was kinda hard to get through. That being said, I still got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I liked it a lot more than the prequel trilogy, so I decided to keep watching. Season 2, I think, is when Star Wars Rebels really came into its own and really started to establish itself as a good, awesome, premier part of the Star Wars canon. Not only that, but it reintroduced a lot of classic fan-favorite characters like Rex from the Clone Wars, and even Darth freaking Maul, just now known as Maul. And the third season is going to be picking up right where that left off, where the Ghost Crew is essentially in disarray. Kanan is going through some weird, crazy training because he's been blinded by Maul and he can no longer see. And then, of course, you have Ezra Bridger, who's a little older, a little wiser, a little more mature, and he's even got a brand new haircut, but basically, he's the same old Ezra that we've always known. Aside from the fact that his Jedi skills certainly pay the Jedi bills. He kicks a lot more ass in this episode right here. You get to see how far his Jedi training has come, not to mention he's sort of walking that fine line between the light side and the dark side of the Force. As for the other members of the Ghost Crew, they're pretty much all the same in what you'd expect. I do love the fact that Rex is still going to continue to be with the group. Rex is such an old badass, and he has a lot of great moments in this very first double episode that they gave us. Not only that, but everybody's favorite characters like Hera, Chopper, Garazeb, and even the always awesome Sabine do return. But mostly this first episode focuses on the characters of Ezra and Kanan as they go about this brand new step in their journey. Not to mention, this episode is really important because it introduces Grand Admiral Thrawn, who, amongst the really hardcore Star Wars fan base, this guy is considered one of the top villains of the entire series, and I'm really glad to see his inclusion. In fact, for people who don't know, Grand Admiral Thrawn was made popular thanks to the Star Wars Heir to the Empire novels, which came out in 1991 by Timothy Zahn. I actually read these books. The thing is, though, I have not read them in like 18 to 20 years. It's been a long time since I've actually looked at these books, but what I remember about Grand Admiral Thrawn was just how imposing and calculating that character is, and they really do a great job of portraying that in this episode of Rebels right here. He barely does anything, but you can tell that he is setting up this spider web of doom to catch the rebels off guard and to crush them with one swift stroke. The actual design of Thrawn is very simple, but still incredibly disturbing, mostly due to his piercing red eyes, which almost look like his eyeballs are constantly bleeding. That and the fact that he just has such a cool and calm demeanor, and you know that he has bigger plans for the future. Clearly, this might be the most devastating villain that we've seen in Rebels thus far, despite the fact that we've seen the likes of the return of Maul, Darth Vader, and hell, the frickin' Inquisitors themselves. But Thrawn is going to be a different type of villain, and I have a feeling that this is going to be the season where the Rebels probably take their biggest losses. Season 3 opens up with a great sequence with Ezra, Chopper, Garazeb, and Sabine getting ready to go into this Imperial prison where they break out Hondo Ohnaka. Yes, Hondo is going to be returning, and honestly, the character has kind of grown on me at this point. I mean, he's basically just sort of like your stereotypical pirate who's always looking out for himself, but I just can't help but love the guy. Not to mention he's voiced by Jim Cummings, who has voiced like a million freaking Disney characters, so he's such a great voice actor for a character like this. But they bust him out because they want to get some information on the Empire. And right after that, most of the episode focuses on Ezra sort of like clashing heads with everybody on the Ghost Crew because now he's in charge, he's got a promotion, and he wants to be the big head honcho. A lot of this having to do with the fact that Kanan himself is nowhere to be seen. He's going through his own little personal meditations, and he goes on his own little adventure in this episode. episode as well. But the rest of the episode focuses on Ezra and the rest of the team as they go to this Imperial base where they're going to try and take these Y-Wings away from them, the classic bombers from the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, what I really love about this right here is we immediately get to see the faults in Ezra's training. He is way too full of himself, despite the fact that he has got some badass abilities, especially in the beginning of the episode when he takes out all of these stormtroopers by using a Jedi mind trick on one of them who's actually controlling a walker, and he actually makes them blow them all away, and then he like walks over the side of this station just falling to his doom. It was a really great sequence, not to mention just watching him with his lightsaber and using a pistol all at the same time, a blaster. It's just fantastic. While all of this is going on, you have Kanan, who is still trying to train himself to see again. His eyesight is gone, but maybe he'll still be able to survive somehow, and he actually ends up learning that Ezra has been using that Sith holocron, which is very bad because we all know Sith equals evil, and he decides to take that away from him, and he encounters this beast on this desert planet, which is known as the Bendu, which is essentially this giant creature which is Force sensitive, but it lies somewhere in between the light and dark sides of the Force. This alone already makes this a really interesting character, as it's basically a neutral character with an extreme amount of power. Essentially, the Bendu is there to coach Kanan on how to actually see again, not with his actual eyes, but with his senses, with his heart, through the Force. And it's really great because there's all of these like really weird monsters that are all over the planet which are constantly trying to attack Kanan and get up in his face, and these really nightmarish looking spiders. But when he actually learns how to actually start seeing these things, how to actually sense them and communicate with them and not actually give in to his fear and his anger and his grief, he's actually able to get away from them and not be harmed by them whatsoever. In a sense, he has gotten his sight back. He can see without seeing. That's some Obi-Wan shit. Of course, at the end of the episode, everything goes completely wrong for Ezra as they try to escape from this massive station, stealing these Y-Wings, and the only way that they're going to be able to do it is to destroy the entire station and let it fall down below. Everybody else escapes except for Ezra, but luckily, since Kanan got out of his weird I can't see funk, and this gave them the perfect opportunity to save Ezra in a pretty exciting action scene. However, due to Ezra's action, he does lose his promotion, but honestly, that's a good thing. I really think he needs a lot more schooling. The thing is, even though they were able to escape and even like get away from this massive freaking Star Destroyer which was getting ready to blow them away, everything is going according to plan, at least according to Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is something that he was planning from the very beginning, and I cannot wait to see the fruition of his plans and getting to see how cruel and callous he truly can be. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Star Wars Rebels? This was a fantastic return to form. Star Wars Rebels has really grown on me over time. Originally, I always thought that the Clone Wars series was a little bit better, but honestly, I'm just becoming so attached to the characters of the Ghost Crew and getting to see how, in a way, they were sort of like planting the seeds for the rebellion in the beginning of the Star Wars canon. And I love that scene at the very end when they actually have all of the Y-Wings together and Heir is there saying that this is going to be the beginning of the actual rebellion itself. I just got this old school Star Wars feelings, and I was just thinking like, wow, this is actually how it all began. And The Force Unleashed totally doesn't count anymore, at least according to the creators of the entire Star Wars series, or not so much the creators, but the people who own the copyrights to the Star Wars series. Which is what makes this an interesting episode, as we get the actual appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and yes, he is a little different from his heir to the Empire appearance. Some of his personality is slightly different, but he's barely even in this episode at all, but his presence is felt throughout the entire thing, especially with all of the build-up that they've been doing for this character. If you're watching this episode for the first time, your first thought is going to be, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? When's he going to pop up? And he finally does, and honestly, I wish they would have done it with a little more gusto, make it a little more threatening, I don't know, maybe add more shadows in, but he just sort of just walks in, he's like, oh hey guys, let's go kick some rebel ass. I think my favorite thing about this episode though is probably the story arc that Kanan Jarrus is going through, especially with the introduction of that character known as the Bendu. It's always really interesting to see characters that have powers of the Force but aren't necessarily on the dark side or the light side of the Force. They just sort of do their own thing, and that's also what I really like about Ezra Bridger, because I mean it's very obvious that he is being influenced a little bit by the power of the dark dark side, yet he does use this power to actually help out his friends, and sometimes the ends don't always justify the means, but honestly, I can't really argue with the results, especially the way he just wasted those stormtroopers at the beginning of the episode. So the tension is going to continue to build. Will Ezra go to the dark side? When will Maul return? And what does Grand Admiral Thrawn have planned for the rebellion? We'll just have to wait and see. What I will say is this was a fantastic reintroduction to the characters of Star Wars Rebels, and it's got me really excited to see the brand new season. This is definitely becoming one of my favorite things from the Star Wars universe, and I think it's very obvious we're going through a big Star Wars renaissance right now. Star Wars Rebels Season 3 is here, and you should definitely check it out if you are a Star Wars fan. It is perfect for everyone of all ages. So there it is. I really loved this episode quite a bit. A score out of 5. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 right here. I really did like it, but there were some moments that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't like the Ugnaughts. They really pissed me off, those annoying little pig people. I have to admit, though, it was really funny when that one got blasted at the beginning of the episode. I believe his name was Turbo. Turbo got the shit blasted out of him, and it was pretty damned exciting. That, and I was kind of hoping that the other members of the Ghost Crew would do just a little bit more. As it stands, my favorite member is still probably Garazeb Aurelios. I just love how ridiculous he is, and I love that one scene when they were actually flying away at the very end of the episode, and Sabine actually said his classic line, "Carabast!" I'm not sure what the direct translation of Carabast is, I'm just assuming it's shit. What is not shit, however, is the very first episode of Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels. So you heard my thoughts about the opener of Season 3, but I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of this episode? Did you have a favorite scene, a favorite character moment? Did you not like this episode? Are you excited to see Grand Admiral Thrawn finally make his appearance in the Star Wars canon? And what are you hoping to see from the rest of Star Wars Rebels Season 3? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching my review. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. I will see you guys next time. And as always, may the Force be with you.